Welcome back to The Wolf and the Bear. So it's Sophia Sterling here, and I am so excited because today we're doing something a little bit different where I'm going to get to speak with a very good friend of mine. And one of the endeavors of my heart has always been digging into the things that make people tick and the magic that animates their life and their story. Because I think at the ultimate end of the day, I'm in the business of people, right? Like nothing goes with us, nothing gets logged except the way that we treat other souls. So I've always wanted to capture conversations with amazing people, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So this gentleman is a dear friend of mine and someone I hold in the highest esteem. He's been a pioneer in the crypto space and a leader, as well as having been a bit of a Midas touch when it comes to understanding what's about to pop. For those that are in the finance sector with this, they'll understand kind of, I guess, what that's referring to more clearly. But he has aided in life-changing money moves that has seen himself and his colleagues continue to elevate and create within that Bitcoin and Ethereum spaces. He is one of the most humble crypto guys, I guess, in some ways. I feel like the world is so rife with like the crypto bros who don't really know what's going on. And he is completely the antithesis of that. He's so knowledgeable, he's deeply knowledgeable, and yet he has no need to just like share that with everybody all the time, which I love how dynamic he is. He's a DeFi strategist and advisor for three separate crypto startups and recently spoke at the ETH Denver Crypto Convention, which I think is so cool. And all what I think is so interesting about him too is all while building a new empire within the cryptocurrency space, he was also developing a spiritual journey within the space of Qi Gong, which kind of began in 2020 into 2021, which I admire so much because when you look at people and the way that they develop their own world and their resources, it makes sense why that would take all the time and the energy. But it is kind of rare when somebody says, I'm going to be in a position of high standing and security and still pursue something spiritual. That doesn't usually happen in tandem. So another reason why I admire this person so much. But today I have the ultimate pleasure of speaking with Ingamar Ramirez, or as I lovingly refer to him as Icky. So I cannot wait to see where this conversation takes us, and forgive us as we sort of walk through conversation with the knowingness that we bring love first and wisdom second. Here we go. What's up? How are you?
So good. I'm chilling. I'm in such a relaxed mood. Got my tea, ready to chop it up with you.
Oh man, I was just, rattling off like the things I admire about you and what you've been up to. It's such a good reminder of like good people are hard to come by. And I think that you're an incredibly good person. And I'm so excited to get to have this conversation with you and to get to capture it because I think you're such a dynamic person.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and probably feel the same way. I haven't heard the intro yet, but
Oh, well,
we all
it's
feel,
just you the bee's knees.
yeah. Um,
But, we do get into, I was talking about sort of your accomplishments in two different areas of the world, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to get to speak with you because it is so rare to find somebody who has kind of mastered the material world quite well and also to have um, be pursuing mastery in a spiritual world as well and to do it so balanced because usually you pick one or the other and usually there's an imbalance that occurs at some point. And so I look at you and I'm like, this is one of the things that I think makes you an outlier.
yeah, totally. So it's like, where do I even start? I think how I got here it was like a bunch of past lives. I was an English major in college, doing poetry at cafes. And then ended up working at a law firm a few years later, and then did some digital marketing for a year or two, and then just kind of stumbled into crypto out of complete curiosity and just dumb luck. And
That's
thankfully,
so
being in,
wild.
in New York, there's so many meetups, there's so many events that you can go to where people just talk about this stuff, and it's very, very open given that this technology is so early and it is in need of adoption from people around the world, that they're very welcoming to people who are just curious, and they're very, very open minded because crypto is is not like anything we've encountered before, and can be a very, very powerful tool for the average person. It's not for rich people. It's not for gamblers necessarily. It's a very, very simple and powerful tool for sending value to anybody with internet around the world, where no bank or government or religion can say no, you can't. And I'm a huge proponent of doing whatever you want as long as you don't hurt nobody.
Well, and so I first of all totally didn't know you used to be an English major. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that you had a little bit of a Midas touch when it came to understanding sort of where to pay attention. But I wondered, did that manifest itself, this kind of the knowingness of where to apply yourself or how to do so in childhood? Like what was Iggy like back before you even knew how to pay bills and that life was important in that way?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that sort of purity, that childhood. What were you like back then? And what was your family dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, very, very religious family, baptized Christian, grew up in a pretty Christian upbringing. But, I was always at home playing video games, kind of sheltered. But I loved being immersed into just worlds outside of this one, where you could be a hero, where you could be immersed in just bright, beautiful colors and imaginative creatures and characters. I loved, being stimulated in that way. At every book fair, I always bought the books about UFOs, ghosts, and Bigfoot. I read all
Love
those
it.
things: Mothman,
Mm-hmm.
Ogopogo, like everything. I was just fascinated because I had this keen interest on what's out there, what's the unknown, what kind of goes against what our reality in a way, and what how we perceive the world.
That propensity towards almost fantasy, right? Did you ever have pushback from your dad or your mom as far as being more, because Puerto Rican culture, if I'm not mistaken, and you tell me, please, there is sort of a reluctance to the more mystical aspects of the world sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really too suppressed in that sense. I think my mother just appreciated that I liked reading, even if it was about oddities like that. And also, Puerto Rico has its own legends. Of course, we got the chupacabra, and so if
Mm-hmm.
anything, they kind of fed me stories that weren't true, and I'd be like, oh wow, and so yeah, in some ways that they kind of joked about it. So they treated it as like this innocent obsession, and there were some mysteries within the family too.
Ooh, like what do you mean?
I mean, I had this uncle. They called him El Gato because he had eyes like a cat's,
What?
and he would say that he'd see UFOs like all the time, like on his roof, and he was kind of like a black sheep within the family, and
Or a black cat, eh?
or black cat, And there was this news article about him that my mom had but lost, but she had it somewhere in like the first house we lived in. It was this article about like how he went missing, and like no one knows where he went because all he did was just kind of stay home and like
What?
sit on his roof and just look at the stars and look at whatever UFOs would pass by, which he talked a lot about.
So nobody knows what happened to him?
No,
Bro, what?
yeah, I don't know.
Oh
I don't
my
know.
god,
It's a
that's
great video. It's
wild.
great. Yeah. A lot of missing details. And my mom had the article, but she doesn't know where it is. I think she might have left it when we moved out of that first home.
What are the chances you think he got picked up? They were like, listen, you're so interested.
They're like, yo, why don't you come out for a one-way
What
ride?
I,
Who knows?
they were just like, you want to explore? Let's explore.
Yeah. It's like, you want to join us? Like, why not? So I hope that answers your question. I think,
Kiddo, really, you found Qi Gong later in life comparative to,
oh, yeah.
it's not like that was around you. So where did it go from, I want to be an English major, I want to do the poetry slams, like, was that in childhood? And if not, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, my father, he was self-employed. I never saw him answer to a boss. There was nobody above him. No one gave him orders. he knew how to make money. He was pretty self-sovereign. He was quite a role model for me, and he just had a lot of life in terms of money figured out. He wasn't rich, but
Mm-hmm.
he knew how to hustle, and he knew how to like have a pretty flexible schedule. Um, and I don't know that there might have been some unconscious part of me that saw that's as the standard for living for me. I
Mm.
was really drawn to that, and maybe I never consciously thought, oh, how do I have this lifestyle that my dad has? How do I make all this money? I think I just unconsciously gravitated towards that, and working that office job for 4 years and going from the mailroom to like consultant, from
At the law
10 a.m.
firm?
to 10 p.m. every day was just not the life for me.
Man, that's so wild. I forgot that was part of your story too,
Oh yeah.
because you said you were working crazy
Oh yeah.
hours there.
Yeah.
Dang. And then it just so happened that you had been, well, walk us through that. So was it a right time, right place thing with the crypto?
Mm.
Uh, I remember what you shared in personal conversations, but it was a lot of language that got you those gigs too.
Yeah. So like I hit this ceiling with the job where it's like I'm not going to get any more pay jumps like I did in the beginning, and they'll take longer to get, and I'll just get very unhealthy and bald.
God,
If
right.
I keep doing this. So I was I was looking for other options, and I just stumbled upon like some digital marketing groups and started studying how do people make money with like AdWords or selling marketing services and stuff like that. And
Is that like SEO or
things
no?
like that. Yeah, AdWords,
Okay, okay.
search engine optimization. And we had that I joined a couple of groups where people were trying to move towards that same thing, like leave behind this comfort world for this world where there's more risk and more reward and adventure and excitement and spontaneity, like no mystery to like who knows what'll happen, who knows if this will work. I could be on the street or I could be, on a yacht. So I joined that
Well,
and
and we
learned
know you're not on the street,
jumping on
so
the street,
where
not a yacht.
where's the
So,
yacht,
I'm
Iggy?
happy with that. I'm happy with just not on the street in the comforts of my home. No smelly roommates. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I think I do.
After this call, you're like, I guess I need to go get a yacht now.
Yeah, now you're like adding that to me. In a couple of years, I'll take a selfie.
Next
So yeah,
step.
you see, here it is. I'm joined.
But you're doing Qi Gong on it. Like there's no chicks on it. It's just you
Yeah,
and like
it's just
and ginseng and incense.
yeah, and some calligraphy,
Yeah, some sound bowls,
maybe
and
maybe
you're
an
happy.
organite pyramid or two.
Yeah, that's the whole yacht is just one organite pyramid.
Oh my gosh, it would be the most
That'd be
beautiful,
amazing.
most
Dude, that would be
beautiful.
like take over the world level for you. You'd be like, I'm here to take it all over.
It
Let's
would
go.
be. Yes, I
I
will show
love that.
everyone how to stay afloat. Um,
Using source. No.
yes. Wait, so I forget what the question was.
Oh no, just like where was this breaking point where you went from working
Oh yeah,
12-hour days at the law firm
right.
to then these meetups and then suddenly you're
Mhm.
investing?
Yeah, so I was starting to make some pretty good side money with the digital marketing stuff while having the full-time job. Somehow I convinced them to let me work 3 out of 5 days of the week, which is unheard of at
Oh
that
wow.
place because it's all about work, stay
The
late.
bottom line.
If you leave at 6, you're like not cool. I somehow convinced them. I was like, well, if you can't do it, I'll just leave. And they were like, okay, we'll do it. And then I started making more money with the side business stuff, and I still left just because I wanted to focus on the digital marketing stuff more, which might have been a naive decision. I probably could have handled both and still had the health insurance perks and stuff like that. But I took the gamble, did the digital marketing stuff, was struggling a little bit because you lose clients, and then that's like okay, your monthly salary is gone. So it
And you
fluctuates.
still had roommates at the time?
I did have roommates at the time,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they worked at that job too. So it was interesting,
Wow.
being around them during that period in life.
Did they think you were crazy?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
not enough where it's like they had to like sit me down and intervene type thing. They're like, oh, that's good. If you want to do it, cool, but we're trying to get that raise in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But no, shout outs to them. I love them. Uh, and they're in good places now.
Good.
Where they're at. But anyway, so yes, I was struggling with the digital marketing stuff and barely paying bills. And then
Wow.
just out of dumb luck, I saw a Facebook event regarding Bitcoin. Oh, also a potential digital marketing client. I was talking to them about helping their business, helping them get more clients. And he said, yeah, we do ICOs. I'm like, what's an ICO? They're like, do you know what Bitcoin or Ethereum is? I'm like, kinda. And then that opened me up to like researching Reddit and like the Bitcoin white paper. And then that had me join that event to be like, oh, this is kind of cool. So Bitcoin was, built by this enigmatic, mysterious person that no one knows. And he created, I don't know, this new funny money thing. Let me find out more. And then I went to the event, and it was no longer like a funny money thing. It was about tech. It was about economics. It's like a cultural type of revolution of, fostered by this guy who created this monetary system that enabled a lot of freedom for people who can't get bank accounts around the world. And it gave them solutions, workarounds to still receive and send money. And that, in a way, as simple as it is, can be very, very world breaking for our kind of status quo.
Well, it's definitely something that for you, when I've heard you speak about crypto, the benefits that you always kind of mention have to do with helping people that don't have the avenues to do certain things. So even for you, there's still this like perspective where it has more to offer than what currently is in place as far as like an economic structure. And you always kind of shout out the benefits to like the disadvantaged or people who kind of are not understanding what quite to do. I love that about you. It's always very people forward for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely in it for the tech, which is kind of like a meme. But I actually am. I think you can make a bag while helping people. You don't have to choose one or the
Oh
other.
yeah.
Just figure out how to do both.
Even in the discords, like where you and I met, because we have spiritual discords we're in, we wound up bumping against each other in numerology, which is an interest of mine as well as you. But even there, you're never the one shouting from the rooftops that you know anything, but you're always the one who's talking to people about it if they ask the right questions and seem appropriately invested.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions with people that it's just about gambling, that it's just about getting lucky and buying some random dog token and being wealthy for life in a day or two. That's like a common perception, and that you have to look at a bunch of screens and day trade to
Yeah.
make money. But you can make a living in crypto a lot of different ways. You can be an
Well,
artist.
and that's sort of the fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Like the what do you call? I never saw the movie, but the one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wolf Wall Street.
About this. Yes. Okay. And it's like that sort of vibe where it's just high stakes all the time. I do think that people get excited with that persona. And I guess that does bring me to the next question I have for you, which is you've always sort of had that alpha energy no matter where it was in life, especially like say with the law firm where you're like, okay, you can either let me have my way or I'll go. It's cool. And you've kind of maintained that since I've known you too. And most recently, the thing where you're like, I'll deal with the legality of this later. I'm pulling the trigger on this decision. And I was like, I love that about him. But no, like, so whenever, obviously lifestyle changed, things changed for you after that you were successful in that space. You've continued to be successful in that space. You mentioned that you were able to also help bring along some other people into some pretty significant success. Was there ever a point where it was overwhelming, where it's like, okay, suddenly I'm not working, I've basically made it, whatever that means to people, right? And your stresses, especially socioeconomically, kind of reduced significantly. how did your ego not sort of become like, you know, impacted in a negative way?
Well, sure. I mean, like when I joined these events and just chatted with people, that was how I found my way into a job in the crypto space, and like it needed someone with marketing skills, which luckily I had because I was already researching that. And it was just it was a corporate job, but it had to do with crypto, so I liked that part the most about it, and it opened me up to a lot of communities and friends, and like increased my network, and they flew me around the world a lot,
So
which
cool.
was dope. Yeah, but it had some, it had some low points too, for sure.
Like
Um,
what?
like, when the market goes down, like they'll just lay people off like that, even if you have like really good relationships with them. It's volatile, like crypto. So, I worked at this place called Celsius Network, which is kind of notorious. But it was bottom of the Bitcoin market, stressful work environment. It had this politics to it that was just distasteful. So anyway, left, had this like year or so, year and a half gap of just soul searching, floating around, living off savings, like doing some consulting here and there for projects that were just like kind of garbage, but they needed help anyway. So I didn't really have my heart in a lot of the things that I was doing for money.
What's the year around this
It
time
was like
period?
2019.
Okay. And you got into crypto 2018?
That was when I landed the job. I was like
Yeah.
exploring it in 2017 for sure.
I see. I see. And then it just kind of became a real integrated part of your life 2018.
Yeah,
And then you sort of had this come to Jesus with yourself, I guess, in 2019.
more or less. It was a very down market as well, so not a lot of opportunities. I have an English major degree. Like, who wants to hire an English major guy in
Was
crypto?
it scary?
Not scary. It was just like, whoa. It seemed like famine. Not
Mm.
just not a lot of opportunities. But then, like early 20, it just kind of hit me one day. I want to explore DeFi, and DeFi means decentralized finance. So it's like a way for building applications using Bitcoin or Ethereum that mirrored a lot of the applications that we have today, like stock exchanges, but like the crypto version, money markets, but the crypto version. And I like the idea of just earning passive income like you do at a bank, but with a more meaningful income, instead of like a bank would give you. Why not get like 10, 20, 30 annually? And it can actually amount to something substantial. So I'm all about, working smart and making money when I sleep type stuff. So
Yep.
I really learned, I delved deep into DeFi in early 2020 by just blogging about it. And I quickly discovered that there was a need for people to explain DeFi applications to people so that they weren't too intimidated to use them, because crypto apps are very intimidating to learn.
Absolutely. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine, and like the worst parrot job ever, because I'm a pretty good listener and I have a pretty good memory. But I was trying to remember what you had shared with me about some of that DeFi stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't recall to any meaningful detail. So it was really cool though, because I was able to articulate at least like, hey, there's a lot of this that people do not understand,
Yeah.
and that information came from you. And I was basically sharing, I was like, everyone think there's one way, and my friend was articulating there's like three other applications minimum that nobody knows about, and I think that's important. But so at the same time ish, where you're, I guess, 2018, 2019 sort of, how did you get involved in Qigong? Like, where did that come from? Were you dating somebody who was
Yeah.
into it? Like, how did we get there?
Let's see. Well, 2020 was like the come up year, right? I got into it in
Yes.
2021, the Qigong stuff.
Okay.
2020 was like the come up year. Blogging turned into consulting for multiple startups at a time. Consulting gigs turned into marketing gigs, turned into business development roles at multiple things. So it was cool, kind of decentralizing my time, where I always had something interesting to work on. And it also turned into like early venture deals that I was facilitating, between investors and startups, and I would get pretty decent cuts that way. So I started to have multiple revenue streams that were pretty dependable and like very, what's it called? Financially.
Lucrative.
Yeah. Lucrative is the word. And then that carried
He
over.
said, "Bitch, I made it." I'm just kidding.
That carried over to 2021, and then the market sort of peaked, and everyone was just euphorically, killing it. And yeah, around that time, actually 2020, I was doing Qigong. Now that I have now I'm looking back, I was doing it back then because I went during COVID hysteria. I was like, screw this. This actually isn't going to end in a month. I'm going to invite two homies to come with me to Tulum. They're also in crypto, and we'll just jam all day and eat $1 tacos and like go to the beach and just party up while everyone's scared. And that was just an awesome time for us because like the amount of brainstorming and the ideas that we had and like the connections we were making were just exponentiated just by being in
That's
close
wonderful.
proximity and like having this lifestyle where we're just leaving this world of fear into this paradise, where people aren't so scared and where the food is better, the air is cleaner, the sun is brighter, and we have all day to just, work hard and play hard. And then that was the period where I was like, I don't know why. I wanted to explore some Qigong. I know that a mentor that I had, he did a lot of energy work, and Qigong is kind of like his bread and butter for staying spiritually in shape. And I wanted to try it. It felt pretty good to do. It was a very relaxing movement meditation. It always calmed me down. It always got me present with my body. And I would do it here and there in the mornings. And, I got one of my friends doing it with me sometimes. But that was kind of the start, for sure. I took it more serious a bit later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of dabbled with it then. And then what was there something that specifically made you start taking it more serious?
Yes, a couple of years later, like 20, that same mentor, he recommended a style of Qigong that was very, very powerful and kind of covered basically all the areas from like calming the mind, relieving yourself of stress, keeping the body healthy and immune to sickness, but also like elevating your capacity for kindness and benevolence in a way that kind of repelled any kind of like negative thoughts or thought forms in your body. I don't know, like it just raises your energy, your capacity for positivity, and people notice it. It feels good. So he introduced me to that style, and I tried it out. This Qigong master, he did like this energy transmission over Zoom, and I tried it out, and I felt it. It was magnetic. It was very gentle too. It wasn't scary at all. It just felt warm, fuzzy, and nice. And I wanted to practice it for myself. And Qigong can be very, very tedious. That's why most people don't do it. They recommend doing it for hours a day. And being in New York, being like an entrepreneurial person in crypto, don't always have that kind of time to do hours of it as they recommend. But I did spend months at a time doing about an hour and a half, hour 45 a day. And that would get me into such awesome states of presence and deep awareness over what's happening in my body, from like the blood traveling through my veins to my fingers, back to my veins, to how my muscles are moving, what's feeling tense, what does my mind keep rambling about, and what am I smelling, what am I hearing all the time, what devices, what am I hearing outside. I can be aware of all of it at once, right? And it was fascinating. It definitely improved my life the more I was doing it. And the cool thing about this Qigong style, it's called Pangu Shangung, and you can transmit it to people. Very, very, very simple practices, and everything is energy. Like I'm sending energy over to you right now as my friend. Everything is energy, and this type of stuff can be transmitted to anyone who's receptive around the world. And the potency is always affected by how much of the Qigong you're doing. Where is your heart at the time? How open are they to receiving as well? And how much you really deeply care about this person. So it's very, very simple stuff. It's
well, from a practitioner looking through my eyes at you, one of the things that is very, very indicative of people who have, even if it's not an active thing at the moment, but anybody who has spent time in a spiritual space, basically of discipline, what it kind of looks like is it's an alignment of all of your layers. So unfortunately, that when you look through those old 3D glasses at the theater.
Yeah.
And if you're not looking at the 3D, it just kind of looks like everything's off just a little bit, but it's all overlaid. A lot of times that's what I see in people. And what that really just means is they don't really have an alignment with their etheric body because they probably don't even know they have one. They've done no work with their astral body because they also don't recognize that they have one. So everything's sort of a little bit out of alignment. And one of the things that I always noticed about you quickly, and I didn't know if you had a religious background, like with your childhood or whatever, because sometimes that can still be providing that stability into adulthood, even if people move away from it. But you're just a very solid person and spiritually pretty in alignment. You know what I mean? I think it would take a lot to shake you. And even if you were to be shaken, I think it would be hard for that to be seen on a spiritual level because you do value privacy and you do kind of have your stuff together at any given time. You have a lot of composure spiritually and physically in this world.
Yeah, I
think that's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for all of that. I do have this Christian background, but I do have an interest in the occult, and I think not a lot of the mainstream Christianity culture gets it right, and I don't think all of the occult culture gets it right.
No,
and I like to kind of pick and choose my own little hybrid way
of course.
of going about things, and it might be like the Aquarius of me that likes to pick and choose and like make their own thing. Very open-minded, right? We're in the age of Aquarius.
Absolutely. Well, and you need to be at the beat of your own drum, period.
That's how I like to do things.
And what was your rising? You recently had
Western is Scorpio.
But what about in Vedic?
In Vedic, Libra. Mm-hmm. So lots of air stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool, though.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that.
We love a good air.
Yeah. The guy who gave me a reading a couple weeks ago, this is like my first encounter with like a dope Vedic astrologer. And
that's so awesome.
Yeah, he informed me so much about my airness, and that the Libra, the air signs, benefit from just moving more and not being stuck on one thing. So that kind of explains why I bounced from poetry to bankruptcy law to digital marketing to crypto to Qigong. It's like all these random things. I enjoy moving around, staying fluid, never getting stuck on one thing. And it's just reassuring that like this is your nature. It's not a bad thing. It's not something to fix. It's just how you are. And the more you kind of move with the stream instead of swimming against it, the better you can kind of operate and understand yourself and like understand others, understand what you are.
Well, this is a question that I think is fun and not too deep. But so you have been present through a lot of Discord conversations about like numerology, about astrology. And I think right now in the zeitgeist, girls who mention astrology are like pigeonholed very quickly about like, oh, we know what the vibe might be on that. Do you see it differently? Or do you recognize when somebody's just kind of like maybe not speaking from a depth of knowledge? Like, what do you think if you're on a first date and you're like, and they bring up, I'm a this, what's your knee jerk?
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate a lady, if a lady's in front of me with an inherent curiosity for astrology and like what these signs might mean. It's a dope way to understand each other, at a first glance. That's totally fine with me. And there's plenty more depth to it than I'm this thing, therefore
Right.
that. It's kind of like saying I'm a dude, therefore I like basketball and
Right.
beer and chicken wings. You know, I'm not just a dude. I'm a Puerto Rican dude in America, right? In crypto with these
Yep.
interests. You know,
You're so dynamic.
thanks.
Like not it's all just a
Yeah,
bunch of different things.
yeah. So there's I'm happy if they open up that subject, and I hope they're just open to more levels of the game. Uh,
Mhm.
and you know the darker side, I guess, of that type of astrology culture is that people tend to rationalize I'm this sign, therefore I don't have any accountability for the things I do.
Right.
I know you're a penchant for free will. You make sure no
I
one forgets that.
Yep, yep. I'm free will's most ardent fucking,
Champion.
representative, so to speak.
Yeah.
But no, okay, so do you now that there's at least a recognition that there's some accuracy to the nature of those topics. So does that make you more reserved? Like because before I really thought a lot about this, which now I've studied the natal chart stuff, like I'm pretty invested in a lot of the reality here, but before that I wasn't, and before that I definitely remember being a little bit like blasé about what I revealed about myself because I thought there's no way there's all that much that could be gleaned. Now though, do you feel like I don't know that I'd be so fast to give up certain aspects of a chart because I understand
Of course,
the negatives, right?
of course. Uh, I mean, if even if you didn't know how to read your own chart, there's things that you would be comfortable to share at first and not comfortable to share at first. So yeah, I think there's some level of knowing what to share depending on how deep you want to go with them. But what you might, once you get to a point with maybe a friend or a potential business partner or a potential boo, it helps to know their astrological, numerological makeup to give you a sense of like how compatible are your energies in the long term. And I think that's a very fair assessment to make.
And this will sound like gibberish to the listeners, but this is something that I think I would be very quick. I think maybe to not love in a chart, for instance, but like when the sun and moon are opposition. To me, it's like I don't know if I have it in me to overcome that for somebody else. Cuz that is hard. It's like where your ego and how you operate is completely at odds with how you feel. So it's like, and again, I'm so sorry if that's in your chart. Like I don't mean that badly, but as far as like partnerships go, it's like, well, that's something that I would be like, "Oh, okay. Hopefully they've evolved out of this."
Sure.
Because that's a pretty deep thing. And so that's if I had that in my chart, I would be very close about it. Like there's so much to discern there. But maybe that's trust issues within me too, rearing their head.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like, I don't want people to know me.
yeah, well, I think that people do want to know you.
Well, out of that, actually, what a great question. So whenever you met me, I was definitely speaking about topics that pretty confidently that like
Yes.
not everyone will believe in, right? And so as what in that were you kind of like, okay, I'm willing to open my mind about these certain things, but this part sounds crazy, like because back before we really had
Yeah,
any kind of
yeah. I
rapport.
remember you'd be chatting up a storm on very very cool topics. Like, oh, is there a
You're so
pantheon
sweet.
referenced in the Bible? Um, the Kabbalah, all these cool things. And I think I was just kind of a listener. I knew that like when you were on, like the conversation was interesting, and then when you left,
Thank you.
it would die down like pretty fast.
You're
Um,
so sweet.
but yeah, there was one early morning where it was just me and you, and I got to really understand your psychic proficiencies, and I got to experience it firsthand. And I was quite impressed by what you were saying because you said things about what may come to pass this year that Terry also reflected, but two other astrologers reflected in the same way. What
Let's go.
one through her Western astrology stuff, and another using playing cards. They all said, "Oh, you'll meet your boo boo for real this year."
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, so that should be a sign. Like 4 different people
Yeah, that's
with
pretty
their,
affirming.
with their own ways said the same thing. But you were the
Mm-hmm.
first, and that kind of had me turn the gears, and just think about how does the universe work that way, where there's
Mm-hmm.
like we're scheduled to meet certain people. It's part of it is written with maybe like wet ink. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That's a great, excellent, excellent way to put that, actually. Yeah, it is written down, but we can smudge it.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Well, and that was one thing, Terry. I think you were in the first episode that we ever did together, if I'm not right. Yeah,
yes.
and obviously, I love you, and so it was so funny because, to your point, I almost mentioned this earlier when we were talking. Whenever I was asking or I was mentioning you, and I was about to ask her the question that you had posed, and she said, she made a comment, and I mean, I think it's on there, or maybe she said it privately, but she said something. She said, "Oh yeah, he's here." And so that's another thing that comes with that spiritual practitionership that you have is you do create the ability to sort of journey, whether you're obviously unconscious because it was during the day, you were out living your life, but you were aware that I was doing it that morning. You were aware that we were about to start talking about you. And so your energy joined us, and she picked up on that. And so then she was like, "Oh yeah, he's here," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome." Because I already knew that you weren't. You know what I mean? I knew that you were in New York doing whatever you were doing, probably at the cafe. But your energy was like, "Oh, they're about to talk about me. This concerns me." And there was a lot of curiosity as well. So you were just like, "What are they even doing?" And like all of that in a separate spiritual state than you wherever you were in the physical form. That really only happens with people who have a strength of spirituality. It is hard to split places like that,
So when you said here,
typically.
do you mean like astrally, mentally?
Like I felt you were in my apartment.
Oh, okay.
Part of your energy was with us in like because whenever I had to clear your energy.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't have had to clear your energy if it hadn't come to visit.
I see. I see.
Yeah. And she picked up on that as well, which I thought was so cool. And again, it's never a bad thing. Like even now, my energy is within your place as much as yours is within mine currently because we're the only two people interacting.
Yeah.
So space and time, obviously. But it was fun because we weren't talking to you. We were talking about you. And you were like, "What's that?
Yeah.
When am I going to meet my
Like,
wife?" No.
yeah. But
But, oh, go ahead.
but yeah, I mean, you could understand why.
Oh, yeah. Well, as we started to sort of discuss the way the world works and the way I perceive it working, right? Because I could be wrong and we'll never know till we die. But what is your perspective about your own mortality? Like that whole we won't know until we die, right? It's easy to say, but obviously we kind of want to know something.
Yeah, of course.
So do you ever worry?
Worry is not the word. Maybe like I think about it a lot.
A
Sometimes I'm more
lot?
at peace. Sometimes I'm less. Like I
Wait,
know
what's a lot?
a lot. I mean, like frequently.
Like in a month, how many times do you think you sit there thinking like, okay, I know this isn't forever?
That I'm really really present at least a few times a week.
Really? And what
Yeah,
normally
but
triggers
not
that?
in like a dark way.
No, right.
Just all right, like we're on a schedule. I'm moving through life. There's a time limit. There's things to
Mm,
do. And the same goes for everybody. Everyone's got their clock. Um, I mean, not to look at it in such like a grim way, but we should cherish and like get shit done while we got the time and
with
the time that that I've had now. Like I'm very very grateful for because people don't you know they don't get to live to 35 all the time.
right. Well, when you think about mortality too, because I think this is a pretty interesting distinction, I think about my mortality up to the point of like physical wellness. So
Mm,
there's a version of it where I'm like, all right, I've got X amount of time until I'm like 60. And then I really anticipate a relative decline of something. But then, so when you think about mortality, are you thinking in terms of that, the physical ableness, or are you thinking about like, all right, 80, I'm like coughing up and I'm dying? Like, where's your parameter?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like physical ableness comes out more. I think, yeah, that comes to mind more. And also when I
Yeah.
see how my father, he's 75, how he ages, and there's just things in life that he can't do where he was able to do a couple decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a period where I didn't see him for like half a decade, and when I saw him, he was skeletal. He was
Mm.
bony. His eyes were like popping out of his eye sockets because he had like no body fat. He was
Mm.
100 pounds,
Oh my gosh.
and very low energy, very low appetite. Just wanted to just be in bed all day. Even when I visited him in Puerto Rico, and I didn't know how bad it was, and I'm not really sure why. I didn't see him through that time. Maybe it was like just crypto busy, whatever.
Yeah,
On the
probably.
phone, he sounded okay, but yeah, it hit me like, whoa, he's not there forever, and but he doesn't have to leave soon, right?
Right.
I can still help him with the appetite. I can help him get some sunlight. I can help him touch grass. I can help him throw the tennis ball and kind of build up this excitement for life, even if it's on such a small scale of like, just wanting to leave the bed, wanting to go
Mm-hmm.
outside and and eat more. And then, but after that visit, that was really crucial. His his happiness improved quite a bit. Yeah, I did teach him some qigong stuff as well. He was eating more. Like his girlfriend would send me pictures of him eating and stuff. And then I started to do a little bit more of that when I would visit, just make sure he would eat. We would even go and play pool at the bar. And by the way, he still beats me in pool. Like
No
I play
way.
competitively in league, and like he'd still beat me. You
Oh
know,
my God.
after not touching a pool stick in like 20 years or so.
It's in the blood, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely in the blood.
That's so
He's won
cool.
trophies in pool.
I
Um,
didn't know he played pool. See, that's so
oh
cool.
yeah, he was a champion.
Is
Like
that why you play?
yeah, to
Oh, I
just get
didn't know
kind
that.
of
That's
closer
so
to him.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and I've even done some like qigong energy transmission for him during those like crucial years. And
Talk me through
I
the
don't.
process of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's very very simple. There's a phrase that like if we were to do it together right now, we would repeat the phrase: take kindness and benevolence as basis, take frankness and friendliness to heart. We repeat that a few times, and then you have your palms in like receiving position, and you just kind of you meditate and you just open yourself up to receiving positive, um, you know, life force energy that it's not coming from me. It's just
Right.
I'm channeling it. I'm calling upon it, and I'm bringing it to both of us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
And to people who don't know what he's referring to, there's two different styles of the healing, right? Magnetic healing, where you're using your own energy and life force, which is not one of the things that we're taught to do regularly, and it's not recommended typically. And then there's channeled healing, which channeled healing is where you create the intention, you create the path lines of the energy with your own will, and then you just hold the space for it so that the divinity, the source of it, can channel through you into the direction you send it. So really, you just need to be a warm body with an intention and a good intention, and healing can be done through you, and that means you, me, anybody, which is really beautiful. It's just a lot of people don't, know that's true. And then you have, the people within the large organized religions, and you see those miracles that occur, and it makes sense why they would double down on whatever their faith was that brought forward those miracles. Because how can you not look at that and think, oh my gosh, there must be something divine here, when there is obviously something divine there as well, but it's a rule of the universe. Like, we're allowed to do that. That's one of our,
yeah,
I guess, God-given abilities,
for sure. We're like
which is really beautiful.
we're made of like electricity and magnetism, and that can actually be measured. So there
Hmm.
have been experiments regarding that, or where Qi Gong masters and practitioners, they can slightly raise the heart rate of someone with a very low, unhealthy heart rate. They can,
Yeah,
you can measure some of these things in the electricity and the heat in someone's system as a result of like their meditative practice or their energy work.
absolutely. I think that this is a very fun time I wish we were a couple of hundred of years ahead, if I'm being honest, but it's a very fun time to be a spiritual practitioner right now because we're right at that cresting point of proving something's real in this
Mhm.
metaphysical space. Because, like you said, I mean, even back in the 80s, they were sending all these like news crews out to the Tibetan mountains and to, ranges in China to figure out what in the world they're doing and what they're up to. And really, all they could prove was, so and so moved all the blood into the left side of their body. And it's like this one time thing, and they're not coming off that mountain. So there's no way to really test it any further. And now you've got DMT drips going down in London. It's like everyone's much more prepared and willing to experiment with what does it mean to work with energy. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry right now can go and get Reiki trained. That's amazing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it's that, and that it's not weird, right? And like with Terry, my mentor, the other part of the Wolf and the Bear, right? And I wish she was able to be here, but and she went to the UK and trained within healing. And they basically, if you're in the UK and you're, I guess, licensed as an energy healer, you're allowed to sign off on people's charts in the hospitals. So
Oh,
we're one, yeah, like we're one of
mhm.
the only. Hmm. So, but I think I told you the story. She never got the licensure because she wouldn't sign off on Jesus not being her person.
Mhm.
And I admire her for that. But yeah, right? I don't know. I have to think about myself. I'm like, I'm gonna sign the dotted line. Like I don't know how like strong I would have held on that. But
Yeah,
she's
I mean,
awesome.
I don't know why they single him out. It's like a lot of these,
They didn't. It wasn't him.
or
They
was,
said you had to basically sign that you did not feel that there was a sentient God, like because in their perspective of it, source would be a non-sentient thing.
oh, okay.
Right. So call it what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner type thing.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Well, okay, yeah.
um
Props to her either way.
yeah. But I am curious, as we talk about even spirituality, even we can address the nature of the body, right? Which is what it sounds like you did with your dad. And
Yeah,
which is incredible because it's like that's truly one of the most selfless things you can do with your time and your energy, of course, is to send it outward, even if it's to a loved one, but it's just like, that's
yeah. I
amazing.
mean, it's easy at first with a loved one that you care.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it'd be harder to send it to your enemy, huh?
I mean, yeah, or just a stranger, right? You'd have to be really, really fit. You'd have to have this in your system all the time. You'd have to be regularly practicing like you would at a gym to stay,
Hmm.
260 and 5% body fat, you know, all these things. But yeah, I think in the case of my dad, I can't prove it, but since when I first saw him, he's gained 25 pounds. He's at least a solid buck 20, eating 3 meals
Yay.
a day, going outside, you know,
Feeling
laughing,
good.
smiling, and I like to think that I helped with some of that. But
And
it was
you
his
just
will.
saw him. You just got back from there.
Yeah, yeah. I saw him a couple months ago,
That's
and
awesome.
he's doing good. And I think you know I he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
With the body being something we have to pay mind to, obviously, and the mental being incredibly important as well. But they always say mind, body, and soul, right? And so, do you ever worry about the nature of your soul? Do you ever worry when they put it on that scale with the feather type thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do have a strong sense of like morals and integrity and being conscious of like what I give my word to, what comes out of my mouth, what goes into my ears, who I hang out with, and I have a very very hard conscience, and I just try to stick to what's good, and if this whole past life thing is real. I'd like to think that I'm advancing from the most at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And with Qi Gong, at least in like the Neidan philosophy, it's all about uh, gathering Qi and bringing it to your crown, or where your Shen is, so that you can like ascend to a higher plane. Even the Bible, it's not just about reading it and memorizing verses and stuff. You want to kind of channel all of this knowledge and meditate on the word and these doctrines in a way that kind of also brings you up to a higher level of righteousness and virtue, right? So it's
Well,
all
and
about like
also,
going upward.
right. Well, I'm curious. So, we have to feed our mind, right? Usually information. We feed our body food. So, what do you think you do to feed your soul? Or if not currently doing it, what do you think is something that you should do more of?
Oh yeah. I mean, touching grass is important. Being in sunlight is great. It gets my body working, and I'm current. I got like 3 books surrounding me. I have Bible here. I have Carl Jung there. I got some Qigong book here. Taoist
I love
cultivation.
it.
Like I'm just surrounded with this as many resources for knowledge that I can apply as I can. And also practicing what I learned, so it's not just like stuck and unused and hoarded, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that I want to apply, and also like even when I'm out in the world, I choose my friends wisely, but the ones that I choose, I try to be somewhat active and helpful with them and helping them understand themselves more, whether it's through like astrology stuff or just listening to them talk about their day. Just being like just a positive example of just a good dude.
Well, I sometimes wonder, for me at least, I'll speak for myself, but I can get a little bit impatient because it's kind of a food chain a little bit, right? I mean, if we're being fed the right way and then feeding others, it's like there's always typically someone who knows more than you that you're like wanting to eat up what they know. And then I think for me, sometimes the less interesting part is what you just said, which is to be present within certain friendships and relationships and give what you know, because that is the cycle of it. And both parts are important. And then sometimes I can catch myself where I'm like, I just want to learn more new stuff. I don't know that I want to be a good friend and be present with other people. And I think sometimes that was what those discords allowed me to do a little bit more than normal.
Well, how else do you know where you're at if you're not, in the world around other people? And if, you know,
Well,
if you're
I
not
like
impacting the world.
disassociating. Okay. No, I'm
I'm
just
just
kidding.
saying, I'm just I'm continuing with
Yes, I'm
your point.
teasing.
It's a good way to kind of see where you're at when you're in the world, when you're moving things.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing too. One of the things I said in the intro, which I think is true, is no matter what, I believe that nothing really gets logged on the soul except the experiences we have with other soul-bearing individuals, which that includes animals, of course, and how we treat them gets logged, but also each other. So, like, you can buy a Maserati, and that's great, but like, you don't really log it until maybe you lend it to somebody who it makes their entire wedding amazing, and suddenly you've brought this through this car, this amazing experience, or like, you know what I mean, and then suddenly now that's playing a part on your soul. And so I have to make sure for myself that I stay actively engaged sometimes, because over this past year I've lost a couple of friends, and that's the natural progression of it. And I think you've been dealing with that to some degree too. So it does become very appealing when you're like, okay, like maybe your heart, for me, maybe my heart's a little bit sore. Maybe it doesn't seem like a great investment right now to give into other people. And then 6 months of being completely, stationary and stuck. And you're like, okay, this isn't the solution either, type thing.
I mean, definitely, I definitely know I'm not meant to just be on a mountain meditating for the rest of my life, and I know that like I'm not meant to be uh, like driving Lambos in Dubai. Like just
Fair.
something in the middle. something in the middle. I know I should be.
And you do want a family. You do or no?
Definitely do want a family. Definitely like want to impact the world, contribute, and that's where like the crypto entrepreneurship stuff comes into play. And by the way, where I'm at now, career wise, is I'm at a startup called Sovereign, and what we do is we build decentralized applications for trading permissionless money like Bitcoin, like stable coins, in a way that preserves your privacy. Will never ask for your email or passport or photo ID, and you get to transact anonymously in a very efficient, user-friendly way. And we also never take custody of your funds at any point. So very basic, very simple, but very needed and not quite mastered yet.
And what a great name for that.
Yeah.
That's an amazing name. And then you're an advisor. I just want to shout out too. You advise on several different startups, correct?
Yeah. I do advise a couple. At first, it was just on strategy, like industry strategy, messaging, branding, even. And I've even started throwing in some like numerology and astrology offerings there. So there's two that I advise with just the knowledge from there. Shout out to GG33 from like the
and shout out to JP Morgan, right, for his famous quote.
Yeah.
It said millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do.
Billionaires do. Yeah.
So something to look at.
Yeah, and so that's in terms of contributions to the world, building sovereign ways to handle finance for the average person. Definitely family. Even one child is dope. And who knows? Like I went to Vietnam about a year ago, and we were riding some bikes through this like very boggy but beautiful marshy town called Ninh Binh. And we're just driving on dirt roads, and we find this beautiful lotus pond with a bridge, and we cross the bridge, and there's this guy, a very old man, with a refrigerator of beers and some tea. He like offered us tea, didn't speak a word of English. He just pointed and smiled at things, and we sat around. Like, he treated us. Of course, we gave him some money for the beer, whatever, and we just like sat around looking at lotuses and going, man, this is beautiful. And he showed us carvings of like benches and tables that had a lot of Chinese mythological symbols.
Wow.
Like, he had this one big wooden table that like it had like the head of a turtle, that sounded really cool. I remember having the thought of like, oh man, if I were to retire, having just a lotus pond with some tea and drinks for travelers who I can show my works of art. I think that's like kind of like making it for me.
I always joke that you're so much more Asian than me in your soul, which makes me so happy to know you.
Yeah, likewise.
Do you feel that spirituality will, or how do you intend, this is kind of a heavy hitter question, but let's just do it.
All right, let's go.
How do you think you're going to bring spirituality into your family dynamics, especially with children?
Yeah, for sure. I think with spirituality, I think there's like a moral kind of code that comes from it, which I would try to bestow as gently but firmly as possible in the beginning. Be very, very aware of like what my child is exposed to at an early age, and I try to make sure the child is not born in an enemy year, all the standard stuff. But besides that, I haven't really thought too hard about it. I figured just start with that and see how things develop. Definitely knowing how my wife operates, and maybe even like what part of the world I would want to be in would be a factor. I'm not sure if I would want to raise a child in America necessarily, or like Thailand or something, or Mexico.
Ooh, would you ever go back to Puerto Rico, or no?
Puerto Rico could be cool. It could be interesting. I don't know why that didn't come to mind. It's just Puerto Rico, like in terms of business, doesn't have as much going on as New York.
Yeah, opportunities are not the same.
And I guess in my adulthood, I never really fell in love with Puerto Rico as like a place to live. I view it as like a place to stay with family for a few weeks
I see. Yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
year, or it would be like a
No,
month
that
out of
makes
the
total
year.
sense.
And culturally not a ton going on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, totally.
Throughout most of
I was
it,
just
there's some
curious.
one, and then but I don't know. Like Thailand is gorgeous, has so many cool things going on, so many foods I've never seen before, very interesting communities. It's just like very fresh and new to me
Yeah.
at this point. But yeah, even so, like air sign, they got to keep moving around. Who
Yeah.
knows where
Well,
I'll
you
want to
probably will
settle.
have multiple air. I mean, my goodness, you know what I mean? You'll, I wonder, I can't help but wonder if you won't have at least two primary
Would
residencies.
be great.
I feel that
Wouldn't
that will
complain
be
about that.
accurate. And I feel that that's part of that will it will make more sense to do so when you have a partner, because part of it will be for her, I feel.
Sure, and I think
Um,
yeah, you're the real estate specialist out of the two of us, so maybe I can take a page from you.
I did want to ask you about, so we were talking about the creation, right? And the fact that you do have a tendency to try to give back. One of the things that I'm really curious about is your sort of a love project, a pet project, but Agarthy. Where's the
Oh,
name from? What's it mean to you? What do you hope in a perfect world this group offers?
word. Um, I want friends that I routinely, talk spirituality with all the time and share deep insights with all the time. And I must handpick them because I don't know, certain crowds I just don't like mesh with them all the time, which is
Well, it's
fine
your
because like
world.
I'm my own person with my own whims. So I just wanted to just handpick a few people, put them in a server, share the things that I like that interest them, and also curate little events, whether it's a 10-minute meditation, whether it's a 20-minute manifestation session, or whether it's like doing some cardology readings for a couple, which I think we'll do tomorrow. I hope you come to that. And yeah, I just want my own little happy place where we just learn from each other, where everyone's nice.
I
Um,
love it.
and Agartha it's like a mythical place referenced around a lot of like ancient societies of like this place underneath the earth where everyone's enlightened, and everyone has things figured out for themselves. But however society grew, it kind of made it, kind of concealed it from the world, so it's not really accessible from like the third dimension or something like that. And I thought that was a cool name to call it, as like this
No, it's
hidden
super
place
cool.
where everyone is on like a certain level, a certain slightly higher level.
Do you think, and this is more of a conspiratorial question, but people have written about Agartha, and people have written about those internalized communities that are held separate from us. Do you believe any of that? Do you think that there's a chance that there are subterranean
Well,
cultures?
the child in me is so eager to explore and find out. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe it's a physical place. Maybe it's like a 3.5 dimension type of place.
Right. Well, people say that there, and I don't know if I believe this. Like, again, this is the childlike stuff that you and I love.
Hmm.
But like, people allege that they channel like from dimensions that are apparently situated like in tandem with the space that takes up the sun. But like, they're like, it's not. We don't live on the sun. Like, that is an energetic center point that in
Sure.
our dimension, there's a civilization there. And I'm just like, what does
Ooh,
that
inside
even
this, that's
mean?
kind of dope.
Well, because that's like that's the allegation of our current life, right? It's like, well, this is Terry's perspective, but it's like I'm currently in an apartment in my room, right, or in my house, whatever. But somewhere layered on this version of reality in this particular spot on the world is a completely different reality. And so we're just tuned into where this is my apartment and I pay rent here and my two cats live here. And on a different framework, this could be in the wilderness, still in Texas,
Yeah.
but like there's no development because maybe dinosaurs are around. And so as we like switch in and out of those things, that's why some people will be like, they'll feel like energies are living out their life, but they don't feel dead. That's another indication of like, oh yeah, you're just on the wrong frequency, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But anyways,
So
I wish that there was something underneath the ground, like
for sure,
even if it's government stuff.
that with the sun that you were saying earlier. So with this qigong practice, Pangu Shangung, what it does is it harnesses the energy of the sun and moon as like symbols of polarity. We have like the golden sun that radiates at all times. It has one mood and it's just bright, right? Doesn't really
Giving.
change too much. Um, it's very seen as like masculine, and you have the moon, which is beautiful. It's like always in a different mood. It's dynamic, right? These are
Cyclical.
right cyclical. It has these are like probably the two of the most ancient symbols of physical polarity, like in nature.
1,000,000%.
The sun and moon, and what it does is it kind of harnesses the essence of these objects and pulls positive energy from the universe, which enhances your capacity for good, which will repel the negativity in your mind, in your body, and it is what heals the body. So just to kind of riff off what you said earlier,
What are your thoughts on with that, the Qi Gong specifically? Do they? I'm so unfamiliar. Do they have a sort of allocation of practice towards like the left and right hand path?
I'm not sure what you mean by path, but there are movements that are on the left side of your body and movements on the right, and then the center.
Oh, got you. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Whenever you sort of developed the Agarthy and developed sort of this place for yourself, really, because that's what I love about it, is that it's not like a come one, come all. It's like, no, this is for me. Like, this is a curation process that I'm going to spend time making sure is correct. Because, oh my gosh, because, we've been in Discords where it's like, it can be great, and then all of a sudden something is disruptive, and then the whole vibe is lost. And that's kind of what you're trying to protect against.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit and complain that there's no server that gets it all right, or I can try to do a project of my own and like handpick all the cool people like yourself.
I love it.
And have a place where we can chill and there's no stress, there's no gossip, there's no like doom and gloom links being spread.
That's a good point too.
And just positive ideologies throughout, and we're all helping each other. We all want each other to win. We all find each other beautiful, and to take a page from Terry's book, love first and then wisdom second.
I love that.
Good way to
I love that
engage
you
people.
say that.
Yeah.
That's so dope. She would love that you just did that. So before I get into a sillier question, but when we think about legacy, right? And you already have so much kind of situated as far as like you're pioneering in the crypto, the knowledge that you bring to it, the fact that you're both kind of a leader already as well as a networker. It's like, yes, you can go further with that, but maybe not really from the perspective of what you've already gotten to accomplish, right? Like, because you were really there right at the crest. So that notwithstanding, what do you think that you want to have, like, when you pass? Like, in say that you have a son, let's just assume. What do you want him to remember you as? Like, what are the big hitters about who you are that you want to be remembered above everything else?
Well, the way I look up to my father, I'll always remember him for being like a winner, a champion, a guy who's won 13 trophies in 4 different sports.
That's so cool.
A guy who answers to nobody but himself, very rational thinker, a very self-sovereign dude, a badass, who used to ride a motorcycle, a musician, very, very beautiful in the eyes of the ladies, just an all around dope hero and just winner. If my child looks up to me the way I look up to my dad, I will consider that a W.
Oh my gosh, no, that's amazing. And you already are those things, so I think you're going to be good. You're going to have to really get off track to mess any of that up.
Appreciate it.
So just out of curiosity, if there was and I guess it would be more like, let's say nothing as close as 200 years, and you could, I'm going to make this weirder. So you're going to have to spend 1 week a month in this timeline. So I'm going to ask a timeline as well as a role within that timeline. Like as far as if you're going to be in charge, like, or are you going to be in a war situation, like a general, or are you going to be like a scribe? Are you going to be whatever? So pick your time zone and then your role within it. And you have to go there once a week, every month until you die. So you don't have to like fully live it, but you gotta do some work there. Mm-hmm. And it picks up exactly where you left it. So even when you come back to our timeline, there's no progression. So you really are, the grind is real. Mm. But you get a break by coming back. So emotionally it could be crazy, but at least you get a break.
I'll just start this off. I never really fantasized about living in other time periods just because I love the internet and what that enables for my life. I mean, for better or for worse. So it's hard to imagine.
The pigeon era.
Yeah, like living without that. But it could be good, actually. It could be a really good departure. If I get to spend 1 week out of the month just offline, that would be actually dope. I just convinced myself. But maybe during the Tang Dynasty, I forget what time period that was, but that was a time where there was a lot of developments in mysticism, or even further back, like around the time.
That was in the 618 to 907 was the Tang Dynasty.
Okay.
Dang.
I think that would be cool. I don't know what role I would have, but one of those people that like just explored Taoism would be kind of dope, because I think they had a lot of this ancient knowledge for healing of the body that came from the body.
So you would be a healer. You'd be like a shamanic, like you'd want to be in that world a little bit.
Sure, like a student. I don't necessarily. Okay. Yeah, a student of it, a researcher, a scribe, someone who like wrote the books on how to do it. But
you wouldn't want to be in the war part of it, like the generals and all that.
Nah, probably like the shelter.
Because there's a lot of money in that.
Money, I'm sure.
Because the healers, they were the first to get murdered if you didn't heal who they needed you to heal back then.
Well, I guess I'd be under pressure to perform well then.
Yeah. Imagine you went back after your week in this world and you're like, crypto didn't go great and you're fighting with your wife, and you go back and they're like, okay, it's time for you to go. You didn't heal the mistress the right way. You're like, oh my God.
Let me teleport back, please.
Can I not get any of these lives right?
So, and I say that to say that it would be dope to just teleport to a place where the nature is beautiful. There's no trash on the ground, and I can just freely meditate because my responsibilities are just to, advance in knowledge and help people.
Well, what does it look like for that to be a regular part of your world in the here and now?
In the here and now.
Like, we think about timeshares and we think about like the way that people do that. Is there a version of it where you have, whether it's Thailand or whether it's Vietnam or whether it's China, like where you just say, hey, this is the week of the year that this is where I'm going to be, and I would be in silence and I'm going to just do my thing?
Oh, yeah. You
know what I mean? Like, would that be something that you would ever work into your annual goings on?
I think I develop a lot when I'm traveling, because I depart from all of my patterns, all my patterns when I'm living in New York, like I've lived all my life. I was in Tulum around the time when I was trying out Qi Gong, and it got me into very, very new environments and new frames of mind, where I would do a Qi Gong session and I would see my laptop and think, no, I don't really need to open it. I don't need to open it. In fact, this silence where all I hear is like the occasional car on the street or a chicken or my refrigerator, I kind of just want to sit on this couch and just listen to the silence and getting in, and it's such a it teaches me how happy and like content I can be with literally nothing, and how present and embodied I can be. So when I travel, I things happen like that more. I develop new habits, new healthy ways of being.
Well, Terry talks about that because she says, and I've seen her do this 100 million times, like this is so accurate, but she can't relax unless she's out of town. And part of that has to do with some of her own trauma, because like we both had an upbringing where if we were at home, we needed to be doing something. And if we weren't doing something, we were going to get in trouble. And so what that does is it creates this version of us that's hard. So she was just down at her timeshare in Florida. And I was like, what do you think? What brings peace here? And one thing she said, she was like, well, it's different because like it's not your kitchen. And so you don't have to worry about cleaning it to perfection and all the little things. And so that's kind of what you're referring to, not so much about the cleaning duties, but like, oh yeah, you're really able to get out of your own energy.
Yeah. Some people need a shakeup. Some people need to shake things up to really know what they want.
Well, I just got this visual, and this is so accurate for me because I think I'm a little bit currently in life in need of a shakeup. But I was thinking about there's a mold of energy in your place. And so then you can't help but operate within that mold frame. And so it does take something to kind of break the mold and say, okay, I've been doing the same thing now for a couple of months and I'm ready for this to be different. But the knowingness is the first part of that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also like once you know, what do you do about it?
Right. Ooh, yeah. Do you just bury it in the sand? Because I can do that sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, I've been burying. But what the cool thing about crypto is there's always conferences around the world. So there's things happening in Hong Kong and Bitcoin next week. Ooh. And so I got clearance from my team to get sent there and like reimbursed. And I haven't booked the flight yet because like,
why not?
The mold. But I'm going to do it today.
You must.
I'm going to do it today for sure. Because it's in like 5 days. So I'm definitely going to do it. But there's like that mold coming to mind where it's like, the mold wants to stay a mold.
And oh my God, that's so exciting.
When you break it, you're so glad after breaking it.
Oh man, that's such a good point too. Because now you can, so suddenly only then do you drag your feet. You know what I mean? Because it's different whenever like you don't know if you can go yet. I hope you have the best time. Well, you will have the best time.
I will.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. Dang, I didn't know that. Remind me again, did you ever get down to here for the thing in Austin or no?
That's happening next month.
Oh, I thought it was this month.
It looks like I'm still going to it so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so sort of, I guess one of the last questions for you though is, and I think that this is sort of like, let's say for the year first, and then we'll go out 10 years. But for this year, what are you the most excited about? Mm-hmm. And that could be something incoming, something you plan to get done. Like, but by the end of 2024, which is, by the way, I guess you're like apex year. You're the dragon.
Yeah,
you are.
You're the dragon. So having fun with that. It's also a year for me personally to get a bunch of shit done. So just that feeling of it is finished. It's kind of like one of the best feelings for the year for me anyway. There's projects to complete. So the feeling of like, oh, this is done. I don't have to have this weighing down on me anymore. There's plenty of opportunities for that for me this year. And every chance that I'm actually traveling will be such a breath of fresh air. Because I haven't been doing enough of that this year.
Well, and you'll want to do the majority of it before the fall.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think you'll be much more interested in being home and present in the fall.
Okay.
Whenever I think that you meet the person you might meet.
Got it.
So it wouldn't make sense for you to be, I don't think regardless you would be doing a ton of traveling, but
I did have in mind to be in Thailand in November, but if that's conflict.
Oh, well, no, I mean, but if your whole fall is booked up.
Oh, no, not the whole, but thank you for that note.
Of course. And then what about in the next 10? You know what I mean? Like, let's just say you pop out a kid this year, which you won't, but if you did, like by 10 years, your child will be 10 years old. So like
crazy.
That's so crazy. So what do you think if you're like, all right, by 45, I want to have done, or I'm excited about which part?
Yeah. I would like to have actual homes.
I was just about to ask, are you going to build or buy, you think? You want the beautiful process of building?
Maybe I'll build one and then buy one and see how it works.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that that's an option for you.
Uh,
No, but yeah, I mean, nowadays though, depending on the area, it's cheaper to build it. It's crazy.
right.
It's
That's what I mean.
absolutely crazy.
And I can impart my own intentions with the construction.
Would you ever put, okay, I'm so childish for this. Would you ever do like a hidden, like, like a pull the book this way and then the whole shit opens?
Why not? That
Why
would be
no?
cool.
That'd be the best.
Yeah, have a little underground bunker
Okay, well that, the,
with a gym, like in that movie.
yes. You're just the next Zuckerberg. No.
Yeah,
Did you see he came out of nowhere looking tan and everyone said that Zuckerberg got his human update?
yeah, that became a real meme. I'm sure the ladies liked it.
Well, I mean, when you're building a bunker in Maui, I guess you wind up getting a little bit tan, huh?
That's true. That's true. That's funny. That meme came and went, right?
Yeah, I mean, but still, it's like, it's just funny to me. Everyone, the only one waiting on his update is Musk. He's pretty staunchly himself
Oh yeah.
and
Do you mean about the
translucent.
fight that they were supposed to have?
Oh, I don't even know about. No, I don't
Uh,
keep. What?
they
Who
they
was supposed
they
to fight?
agreed on Twitter to have a UFC style fight, and like we were pretty hyped up, like in the Roman Coliseum, actually. And then like it kind of fell
What?
through. Zuckerberg was actually the one that wanted it more after he agreed because he was training for it and shit. He's like, all right, why don't we do it?
No.
And Elon Musk was like, got wishy washy. Maybe he was intimidated. Maybe he's out of shape. But
Maybe it's all of that. No.
yeah, that meme, another meme that just came and went. Hard
That's
to keep
too
track.
funny. Yeah. Well, okay, but back to you. Okay, so owning homes,
Owning
obviously
homes
in the
for
10-year
sure.
plan. Having a
Um,
family,
family for
10-year plan.
sure. Maybe creating some works of art or music would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exploring just different expressions of myself.
Would you ever do the patronage role? Like if you ever just struck crazy gold and you're like, all right, now I don't have to worry about anything ever. Because would you ever do the whole like sort of Renaissance thing? I mean, in a different way, I guess, but like where you're like, all right, I have an art house and it's
Mm,
like Iggy's art house and like
would be so cool.
scholarships towards that or whatever. Or you like, no, I want to be the curator and the creator.
You are feeding me with dope ideas. These are all good. It would be kind of cool to like have an art house of just things that I made, but it probably wouldn't start
That's
that
so
way.
you.
It might start with what can I do with this paint, and then like where do I put it, and then it'll just accumulate, and then
I
I'll
love
say,
it.
oh, it's now a house of Iggy art.
Well, the thing that made me say art house, I don't know what made me say that actually, because I had never had that thought before. So that might just be the guides. But every time that you see something, you're so appreciative of it. And you don't feel the need to go and like make a version of it yourself. You're more just like, I want to shout out this really cool thing. I want the people that made it to get credit. Like, and that's half the joy for you.
Oh yeah, of course.
Which is true with crypto because we've talked about this where you said, dang, that's so interesting. That's just, you said, I like the benefit of knowing that I'm the reason this thing came together. And you're like, and that's my little like thing that I enjoy. And then I just walk away from it and I'm glad that they met. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's still true for the art or anything where you're like, I enjoy being the person to shout it out. And then you go enjoy it for whatever it is.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
that's dope. That's so cool.
yeah, I like being like a cause of things that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Whether
Oh,
whether it's a
a
business
catalyst.
coming to fruition or like a connection that people make, they end up doing something dope, and I don't even need like the credit, just knowing here, even if no one
That's
else
so
knows.
cool. Would it offend you? Would it get under your skin if in conversation somebody was like, "Oh yeah, we met because of Dave," and in your mind you're like, "No, you met because of Iggy." Like, would that bother you or not
I'd
really?
probably correct them, but
Yes, I love it.
yeah, I would probably correct
We're
them.
all allowed our ego. We're allowed the little things that bring us delight. Like, there's no shame in that game at all. And you're the most humble, like, humility based person in the world, so you deserve this. It's the
Hey,
one credit.
I don't mind spitting facts if
Well,
facts are
I
needed.
love that. I love it. And do you want animals or you think you'll have family pets or no?
Maybe a bearded dragon would be dope.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Like,
Uh,
man, I walk into your place one day, it's just like koi ponds and Komodo dragons. I'm
that
like,
would
where did you get a Komodo dragon?
I don't know, he just showed up, you know,
You're
came,
like, and I've
came.
got 3 more.
Yeah. Pets, I don't know. Like I had a dream that I had a cat
Mm,
and like in this apartment, and I remember thinking, I can't go anywhere now because I have a cat to worry about.
so funny.
And that felt so restraining to me, that the idea of having a pet seemed too overbearing of a investment to make. But a kid like is cool.
Yeah.
A kid is cool
Yeah.
because
Well,
I made the
maybe.
kid, and the kid is my project from me. A cat is just
Well, what if your kid wants an animal? Like, what are you gonna do? You know the day's eventually gonna come where your kid's like, "Can I get a dog?"
actually,
And you know
yeah, it's a good
dogs
point.
aren't
Like
for
if I have a
you.
kid, I'm locked down anyway, so a pet won't.
So true. But you'll want to be. I mean, that's the difference too. Is like the feeling you'll want to be there. You know what I mean? It's
Of
it'll
course,
feel
yeah, yeah, yeah,
different.
yeah. That
But
yeah, everything changes once a kid comes.
or even your significant other. I mean, like, dang, like, you'll
Sure.
enjoy. Home will take on a new meaning. But it does feel like that your partner will enjoy travel because that will be important, I think, for you.
Would love to figure it out and try to have everything, just because like it's just in my nature to try to figure it out so that I have everything and I don't have to sacrifice one thing. Like one metaphor, like as a kid, like my mom would serve me rice, beans, tostones. It's like a fried banana thing, chicken, and like maybe avocado or something like that. I'm not sure if I ate it back then, but I would try to have it so that in the spoon had a little bit of every single thing. Like every bite was all of it. I
Yeah,
didn't want to like bite one like the rice and then a bite of beans and then like a piece of chicken. No,
I love it.
all in one scoop.
Yep,
That's how
the
I want to
perfect
live life.
bite.
I want all in one scoop, even if there's just a little bit.
Well, I want to, speaking about time, right?
Mm,
But if you wanted to be very curious if you had a message for yourself in 10 years from now, because obviously life will be very different and a little bit more responsibility heavy because there's a freedom in your life right now and there's a physical health in your life right now that may never be the same, right? Because we're only ever here one time.
yeah, a message to myself 10 years ahead.
Hmm.
I mean, I wish it was the other way around. I
Of
wish
course.
the 10 years can tell me some
Of
things
course.
because he knows more. But it would probably be no more than just like a shout out. I hope you're alive and well and healthy and still as dope as me or more, or a whole lot more dope than me. But I'm on my way to get to where you're at.
Hmm. I love that. And I bet you're going to still be as happy as you are now.
Hope so.
You have a tendency to always need you'll carve that out for yourself.
Hope so. Yeah, and I hope we're friends in 10 years.
Oh,
Chat
yeah.
regularly. That would be
We're
even
going to be
doper.
great. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited. And I mean, the end of this year is going to be amazing. I mean, I feel that before you know it, I'll be hearing about someone very special. And before you know it, I'll be hearing about a different version of life for you. And I'm really, really excited. And I think right now it's just about closing down, like we said, some things that need to be done and really making space and room for this kind
That's
of next
true.
chapter that seems
That's
like
true.
it's right around the corner.
That's true. I wish I could see things for you the way you see things for me. It's like I don't know what's ahead for you, but you know like a lot.
Well, it's good. No, it just feels like doesn't feel like anything. It's the weirdest thing. It's like there's just a knowingness about sort of where your businesses will be.
Mm,
And it's all good stuff. It's like thank God I don't, there's not mourning, there's not stress, there's not altercation. It's like the end of this year is really, really just fun, I think.
cool.
And I'm so glad that you're taking a yes on the Hong Kong thing, because
Yeah.
it really will. You already had to turn down international travel earlier this year. And so I'm thankful that you're going to be doing that anyway.
Yes. Absolutely. And yeah, I will let you know about my travels. I'll let you know when I book everything.
Today, right?
Yeah, to kind of hold myself accountable to it.
Uh,
Sometimes voicing it makes it more real to me.
Absolutely.
So, uh,
Well, and I will soon be reaching out to you because I know you were going to, one day I'll sit down and we'll talk about the crypto stuff because I think you have a lot of valuable stuff that I'd like to hear about. And like I
Sure.
said, I don't listen to a lot of people about it because I think a lot of people are really annoying with it. And
I
you're
hear
just
that.
such an incredible person.
I hear that. You are also incredible as well. I
Well,
know
I
when
just
this was
love
like
you.
this was an idea a couple months ago, and now this is what, the 10th episode, 9th,
Yep.
10th
It's going to be the
episode.
10th
Look at
episode.
that. Got the one in there, perfect.
I know. It's
You
actually so perfect.
know?
And what's even funnier is this really wasn't supposed to be the 10th one, but the data corrupted on the last one I did with Terry. So that just won't ever air. So this is going to be 10. Is that
Okay.
not dope?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
don't
dope.
mind that at all. Like that's life, but this has been perfect and nothing's wrong with it. So I'm so excited and I just love you. I'm so glad to get to
Yeah,
do this with you.
love you very much too, Sophia.
And the funny thing is, you're a 1, Terry's a 1. Like I'm born on the 10th. Like there's
Mm,
a reason we vibe, I
yeah,
think.
we got some one stuff, and I this is just like my hypothesis, but I think that a lot of people with one energy, they're they're very likely to have a belief that there's like a source, that there's like a
Mm.
God thing moving all the parts.
Yeah, but then also there's like a stubbornness to say like I can believe that's true and I also am going to go out and move the world to look like the way I want it to look.
Mm,
Because I think that's part of that one energy too. It's like I have faith that that might be true, but I definitely believe in myself. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
double down there too, you know.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
and I'm sure we'll do this again, especially, you know, I'd love to have you on again depending on if and when the topics arise that make sense, but
Word, yeah,
I think you're absolutely amazing and thank you so much for your time. And
yes,
I cannot
likewise.
wait to get this chopped up and then I'll send it over to you.
All right,
And
likewise.
of course, I'll post it.
All right, cheers, Sophia. Thank you very
I
much.
love you, Iggy. Have a
You
great
too.
one.
Bye bye. Yo, likewise. Bye.